Okay, so we're going to talk about transitions and how to use your seat and affect the horse through a transition. So I think we'll start with just like walk and halt. Okay. Is that a good start? So Amelia's going to walk on Ludo and ride a transition from walk to halt. So we start out by assuming that her seat is following him in the walk and that he's in a nice active forward walk, and then she's going to halt. So how did she make that happen? What were her aids? So the first thing that she probably thought of, hopefully, is that she tightened her core a little bit, used her belly button back towards her spine. Then she probably came in with a little bit of tension in her lower back and a little bit of closure of her thigh. And when we close the thigh, we want to make sure we're not gripping with the inner thigh, but just wrapping her leg around the horse a little bit and putting a little pressure with her knee into the saddle. And he's doing pretty good with that. So she also has to make sure when he moves out of the halt that he does so on the first aid she gives. She needs to stay really passive with her seat in that moment and just follow and relax with it. If she does the wrong thing, she'll give him a shove with her seat and she'll make it tension in his back. So she's going to walk out of this next halt the wrong way. She's going to push him with her seat and shove him out of it. And you can see he hollowed his back really quickly and trotted forward. He said, "Hey, that doesn't feel good, I don't like it." The other thing she can do wrong is riding into the halt. She can pull back too much in the rein and just ride the halt off of her hands, which is not what we want to do. So if he's walking forward and she goes into the rein too much, we'll see what he does when she halts with her hands. And see, he opens his mouth, he backs away from the contact, and he hollows his back. When she rides him forward into the halt with her leg relaxed and telling him to step forward and then coming in with her core, she doesn't need her reins to halt him at all. And all her rein did there was she kept him a little soft in his jaw and his neck, which is what we want her to do. So then she's going to ride a transition from walk to trot. And in that instance, her seat should be fairly passive. She wants him to move off from her leg and not be in a position where she interferes with him with her seat at all. Then she's going to sit the trot and ride a transition from trot to walk. And first she has to establish her sitting trot where she's really relaxed in her hip and she's following the motion. Then she does the same set of aids that she brought him into halt with until he walks. As soon as he walks, she releases her seat and lets him know that he's done the right thing, but that he can continue to go forward. So she's going to do that one more time. She's going to sit the trot first, follow with him. Now she's going to engage her core, slow down her back, and close her knee, and he walks, and that was quite good. And then you can see he does that without any resistance. He's relaxed in his body, he's relaxed in his top line. Now, if she does it with too much tension in her body and she pulls on the reins and she stiffens her seat instead of just engaging her core muscles and her body, see what happens. Now she's going to be too strong. And he still walks, but he inverts his back a little bit, he gets a little hollow, and he does the wrong thing. The other thing she can do is she can tip forward, and she can get tight in her body when she asks for the transition instead of sitting deep and relaxing her hips. So there she's not really sitting, so she's just trying to get him to walk with her hands, and he's not going to really do it. And she's going to do one more the right way, so you can see that a little bit better. So she's following the motion, relaxed in her hip, and then she comes in with that little bit of tension. Now she's going to ride a transition from trot to canter. And in that instance, she wants to keep her seat, again, fairly passive so that the horse just comes into canter from her legs, not from her body. And that was really good. So she just used her outside leg back for a moment. She had her inside leg on at the girth. She probably gave a little tiny push with her inner leg at the same time and brushed her outside leg back as the cue for him to canter. Now when she comes from canter to trot, she's going to recycle the aids she just used in the walk transition. And as soon as he responds to her, she's going to release the aid and sit with the motion. So she canters, she's following the motion in the canter. She comes back to trot by closing her core a little bit, using her lower back and closing her knees, and then as soon as he trots, she relaxes. Now, if she asks for the canter and she tightens up her body and she tips forward and she tenses up. He's still a pretty good boy, so he still canters, but he lifted his neck, inverted his body a little bit, and didn't do it as smoothly. Now if she leans forward and pulls him back into the trot, he drops his back a little bit. He can't come into that as relaxed and as happy as he did the first time. And the same thing. Now she might, and then she's really causing herself trouble there because she's leaning way forward, and she's added a little bit of the backward driving leg, which some horses would not be as happy and nice about. They might even get mad and buck a little when you do that. So now she's going to go back to normal, and she's going to ride a transition from trot to canter, and she's going to lean too far back the next time. And she's going to get behind the motion of the horse and see what happens. And when you do that, Amelia, stiffen in your seat a little, and there she goes down. Then she drove him into canter with her butt a little bit, which wasn't terribly effective. And he still did the same thing, and he told her, right, that's not how you usually do it. And he inverted a little bit. So the next time she's going to try to get him to canter with her upper body instead of her legs, which I see a lot of when I'm giving lessons. If somebody can't canter, they start to chase the horse with their upper body and pump with their seat and push with their seat as hard as they can and shove him into the canter. And the horse does what he just did, and that's inverts his body and changes his frame and gets uncomfortable in the transition. She can also do that by leaning back and driving with her seat and drawing her legs way up, which will sometimes make the horse canter, but it won't be very nice. She didn't do that quite ugly enough. You need to make that one a little more obnoxious. Drive with your seat more. Put your hands down and just drive with your seat. There, she's driving with her seat better, and now you can see she's really pulled his neck up and made him uncomfortable in his back, and his ears tilt back, and he goes, "What are you doing up there, Mama?" That's right. And then she's going to ride, the next time she comes to trot, let's try a transition from trot to halt. So she's going to ride a good transition. That was good. Now she's going to ask him to stop all the way. So now she doesn't release the aid. So the same aids that she gave to start with, the trot to walk aid, or the walk to halt aid, is the same aid, but instead of releasing the aid when he walks, she stays there until he comes to a complete stop. So do that again. That way she doesn't have to pull in the reins. You can see she doesn't have a lot of weight in her hands. She's not pulling back on his mouth to get him to halt. That way she can always make sure she's riding him forward into the halt. And right there, when he made a little mistake and stepped backwards, she was in a position to just push him forward again with her leg and say, no, that's not quite right. That was good. Now if she wants to really get technical about it, she can get him to finish the halt with his hind legs a little bit. She can trot forward and halt again, and if one hind leg is back, she can hold him still a little bit with her hand and her seat in tension, and she can add her leg until he steps up with his legs and gets square. So he's halted square here, but he's out behind, so we want to see if she can bring his hind legs forward like that. Good boy. And then he stands under himself a little bit more, and that's what we want in the end. That was good. And she's going to trot out of it again, and she's going to stay passive in her seat, and he's going to react to her legs. So she stays relaxed in her hip. She follows the motion. She's still engaged in her core, because she's always engaged in her core when she's on the horse's back, but she's not restricting it or telling him to stop in any way. And she's going to halt one more time. Good. Now he's way back with it. Yeah, and you see she just caught that. He stepped way back with his left hind leg again. And he needs to learn. He doesn't know this very well. That's right. He needs to learn to stand on his two hind legs and stand under himself. So this is the beginning of teaching your horse to halt square as well, which is part of all of your transition work. I'd like her to show a better shove with her seat. Try to just make him canter from your butt and not from your leg at all, because that's what I see people do a lot, and that is pretty messy. See that? She's trying to shove him up to canter, and he's just going, "What are you talking about, lady?" So I see that a lot, and people have to understand that when you use your seat like that against the horse's back, your seat is pushing against his back muscles, and he's going to try to get away from that aid because it's not comfortable. And then she should do a couple more good ones so that Ludo knows that he's not confused and doesn't think that she rides like that all the time. That was good. And you can see that was very prompt and happened right on her aid. Libby, you don't have to help us. No, you don't. So hopefully that helps you ride some better transitions.